And it is, and it's happening. We're seeing countries like Iran who have increased their gold ownership and purchasing by 6 times this year. Iran paid $1.75 billion in a deal for drones, and the payment was made with several tons of gold ingots. We're seeing a shift away. We're seeing a movement away from the West, a shift away from treasuries, a shift away from dollars. Really the big moment, and that is if indeed we see a common settlement currency come out of this meeting in October. China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, they all run a current budget surplus, and all of them have been increasing their gold reserves.
According to Andy Schectman, CEO of Miles Franklin, a major shift is happening in the global economy, and it's centered around gold. While the Fed lowers interest rates, big money is dumping U.S. bonds, driving long-term rates higher. Their next move? Buying gold and silver like never before. Countries like Poland are stockpiling gold, aiming to make it 20% of their reserves. Why? As Schectman points out, gold holds value, even if the financial system fails. Iran, too, just made a massive arms deal, paid entirely in gold, not dollars. Since 2022, central banks have sold $1 trillion of U.S. treasuries and bought over $1 trillion in gold. The world is moving away from the dollar, and Schectman warns that a new global currency could be on the horizon. This is more than just a trend. It's a transformation.
And I think people should think about that as it pertains to precious metals, which, again, when we've been told on many levels by guys like Jamie Dimon that a hurricane was coming. Well, here's one that is coming literally, and I think he meant more figuratively. And when you see some form of a monetary hurricane come rushing through the economy, being reactive is certainly not a good path to follow. And I can tell you that in real time, just watching the grocery stores empty out in a very, very, very short period of time. Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I mean, there are signs all over the place. The Fed drops short-term interest rates down, but at the same time, we see the back end of the curve start to go up. And that to me is the market or big money selling long-dated claims for the future delivery of dollars, which increases interest rates for the bonds. And this is not a good omen. This is at the same time we see them buying gold and silver at a rate the world has never seen before. And I think that for a long time, we had, it seemed, this geopolitical cooperation, in particular in the price of oil and the price of gold, with the Saudis and with other countries. And it seems as though the markets are no longer discounting this geopolitical cooperation, at least in my mind, in terms of the price of oil and in terms of gold. And they are starting to separate themselves. We can look at a country like, for example, in this case, a country like Poland, who has now decided to continue to purchase gold. They're already at 420 metric tons. They have more gold now than the EU. And when you talk about what Adam Lipinski, the head of the central bank, said, is that he wants to get it up to as high as 20% of their foreign exchange reserves. And I want to remind people what Adam Lipinski said when asked recently, why is it that you buy gold? And he says, because gold will retain its value even when someone cuts off the power to the global financial system, destroying traditional assets based on electronic accounting records. Now, of course, we don't assume that this will happen, but as the saying goes, forewarned is forearmed. When you hear things like this, it becomes very, very important. We're seeing the breakout of gold in Swiss francs, which is a very important confirmation because especially in terms of other currencies where we've seen gold break out in most currencies, but the Swiss franc has been one of the world's top performing currencies this year and in years past. And a breakout in Swiss francs above moving averages is even more, monumentous. And it is, and it's happening. We're seeing countries like Iran who have increased their gold ownership and purchasing by 6 times this year compared to the same time last year. And there was an interesting article that came out about a hacking group that exposed documents from a company called Tandar Sara. I know I butchered the hell out of that name, but anyways, this company is involved in drone technology, and it's linked to Iran, to their military. And the hacked documents that came out, kind of like a WikiLeaks thing, said that Iran paid $1.75 billion in a deal for drones, and the payment was made with several tons of gold ingots. We're seeing a shift away. We're seeing a movement away from the West, a shift away from treasuries, a shift away from dollars, and a changing of the guard. And, countries are tired of sanctions and the bullying, and they're trying to get out of the way of the West. And they're doing that by purchasing over $1 trillion of gold since 2022 while selling $1 trillion in treasuries. This is a trend that is unmistakable. When we talk about the countries in Project Enbridge, the ones that are moving to what I believe is really the big moment, and that is if indeed we see a common settlement currency come out of this meeting in October or in a few weeks here in Russia. It's noteworthy to note that all of the countries in Enbridge, China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, they all run a current budget surplus, and all of them have been increasing their gold reserves. And instead of buying treasuries, this is what's called gold recycling, and they're storing their trade surpluses in gold instead of U.S. treasuries. This is huge. All of these things are going to factor in to this big moment. And it's also noteworthy to note that China, Hong Kong, and the UAE all have sophisticated precious metals markets. The one in Shanghai, the volume has now surpassed the COMEX dramatically with a 400% increase in volume over the past 6 months or less. It's now the second most actively traded market in the world. You can see the pieces are being put into place. It's not just gold. We find out that Russia's federal budget draft includes plans to acquire not just gold, platinum, and palladium, but for the first time ever announced by a central bank, silver. And it's the first time that the central bank has ever made a significant announcement in this regards. And could it push it above 50? Yeah, why not? When you have stupidity to the degree that we have, suppression on the COMEX market, on the LBMA, yeah, it's rocket fuel. And maybe that's why we see the Citibank analyst, Max Layton, come out and say that, first of all, silver's up about 35% so far this year, but they're predicting over the next 3 months a rise up to $38 and maybe even higher. So all of these things are beginning to factor into into the global picture, and that discounts all the stupidity that we are seeing at home, where $167 million was just given to Lebanon, approved in aid, $385 million already this year, and yet we need to get congressional approval to approve additional aid to North Carolina at the same time, and they've gotten a fraction of that amount. It's unbelievable where this moron, the head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, came out just on Wednesday, I think, and he said that they don't have enough funds in FEMA, that they've already spent more than $1.4 billion since the fall of 2022 to address the migrant crisis, and they expect another hurricane hitting a la tomorrow. But they don't have enough money to do it. And, it's disgusting that we've given $1.4 million to illegal immigrants here, money taken from FEMA and at the same time in an environment, and this is kind of just, I digress for a second, where it just seems that with this modern monetary theory BS that's all over the place, where we can spend money to a degree that no one's ever seen before. We can create a 100,000 in debt every second and $1 trillion every 100 days, which took 200 years to do the first time, that we don't even have enough decency and even a hollow gesture to stuff the coffers of organizations like FEMA so they can come in and help us when we need it most. It's just unbelievable that we give money all around the world and don't take care of our own. It's horrific.
As Andy Schectman has shown us, the world is shifting, gold is rising, and the financial system we know is changing. Are you ready for what's next? Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more insights on the global economy, and don't forget to hit the bell to stay updated on the latest financial trends. Stay informed, stay prepared.